I think the point you brought up there is so important because, I speak to people about how to market their business and how to sell their business an awful lot of time. And one of the strange things is people always want to start with just throwing stuff at the wall, right? They want who buys my stuff? Everyone buys my stuff. Who can follow me? Everyone can follow me. And like I know they can, but it's just so hard. That's like me standing on the roof and just hoping that someone who hears me is like, "Oh, a podcast, cool." Much easier for me to go and say, like, podcast listeners. These are people who know what it is now. Maybe some of them want to start. Just a simple kind of there. But if you're trying to build a community, it can end up as everyone. And Joe Rogan, no matter how much controversy there is of him at the moment,
Perfect example.
started very much with comedy and fighting, and mixed martial arts because that was his like literally he's a comedian who commentated on mixed martial arts, and that's where the audience grew from, and then was able to then step out of his zone and say, let's have this doctor on or these people, and just have people on.
Yeah.
But initially, it wasn't for everyone. It was for people who like these set of comedians, like not even comedy, but like these 10 comedians. um, but it's just impossible, I think, to start. It's not necessarily impossible, but it's very expensive to try and say, like, okay, now we're going to tell everyone about the thing we do.
Uh, you know, I like to call that bro marketing. Have you heard that term? Are you
I
familiar?
haven't.
Okay, so here in America, it's a term that's kind of thrown around. So bro marketing, meaning you have these 20 somethings that really haven't done that much,
Hmm.
but they have put a lot of money behind like campaigns and
Yeah.
everything is boosted. And so through bro marketing, they have this enormous audience that's not engaged at all. They're not
Right.
going to buy anything from you. They're not going to comment on their posts because
No.
you paid for it versus actually growing authentically and organically.
Yeah, and I've seen so many businesses. I remember I worked with a fitness business once, and they were like, "We're gonna buy 10,000 followers," and I was like, "Can you not?" Like, especially because that's a geolocated business, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't. It wasn't world. They weren't selling T-shirts and they weren't selling protein shakes. They were come to my place, come
Yeah.
to my. So we're talking 5 miles. Like, if you're gonna use a gym, 10 maybe. Like, if you're 10 miles away from a gym where this place was, you're probably driving past 7 gyms. So maybe let's just like kill the area 5 miles around us. Like everyone who works there, everyone who lives there, that's our area of doom. And if we had 400 followers that were those people, I'm a happy boy. Like I'm a happy boy, but it's vanity matrix, isn't it? Like, sorry, vanity metrics.
Yeah. Yeah. So Joe, you got to see him before the show. My swim coach, Hubby, was also my partner with Florida Swim Network. And he and I had constant conversations about expanding Florida Swim Network to beyond, to the southeast or to
Mm,
all of. And we would always go back to the views, right? We'd always go back to the data. So Joe would go to the Olympic trials or go to some of these national meets. He was actually the talent. He was the one down there interviewing people. He's a good-looking guy, good on camera, and I
he
was
is a good looking guy, isn't he? Yeah.
I was back there, posting stuff. And at Olympic trials, where our Florida swimmers, we'd have like 150 swimmers from
Okay.
Florida trying to try out for the Olympic team, and uh, Joe would interview every single one of them, and
Wow.
without fail, somebody you have never heard of that finishes, you know, 27th at Olympic trials would get more views for us than if he jumped in on a Michael Phelps interview because our audience wanted from us the Florida athletes. So we always went back to the data to make sure we were on mission.
So to make sure you don't kind of lose track, and the reason that this has become what it's become is because of the people in it. So when you say data, where were you getting the data from? Especially back then, I guess it must have been a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
lot more difficult.
Well, really easy. We would post these things to Facebook, and you could see the number of views that it would get. I mean, it was or the number of views that just an age group meet would have versus, it's funny because Joe was the busiest guy at Olympic trials. Florida had, besides California, I think the most swimmers trying out for the Olympic team, which makes sense.
Wow.
We're
Yeah.
surrounded by, year-round swimming, surrounded by water. And so he was interviewing somebody just about every heat. Meanwhile, the big newspapers, the NBCs of the world, they were only getting up for about 4 interviews because they just had the rock stars and stuff. But it really paid off with the views. And we stopped Florida Swim Network after 2016. We actually like, Jackson, my son is not swimming anymore. I am done. Let's and so we got
Why am I still in swimming?
I know. Like, I don't like swimming. So and Joe was busy coaching. And so but we recently reacquired it just in time for the Tokyo Olympics. We stepped right back in during the Tokyo Olympics.
Amazing.
And I was so pleased to see, though, and this is a good lesson, though, for those that think that organic building is a waste of time. We didn't want to invest any money. We're just kind of taking it back over, testing the waters, and we would
Hmm.
post anything about a Florida swimmer, especially. And we had lots that won gold. We had Caleb Dressel won 5 golds. We had Robert Fink that won 2 gold.
Yeah.
We had a lot of. As soon as we posted anything about him, I'm not kidding, 3 million organic reach. And the page only has 25,000 fans. They shouldn't have more than that. We're Florida. I mean, we shouldn't have more than that. We shouldn't have
Mm.
3 fans. But the reach of it let us know that, oh yeah, that audience, that community that we built is still there 4 years later, still strong and still interested. So organic works.
And amazing that it's been that long a time, because if you speak to a social media coach who wants to sell you more stuff, they're going to tell you got to keep posting forever. If you stop posting, it's in trouble. I remember once internally we were having a conversation, we were looking at everything somewhere else in the business. I looked over and kind of checked out our SEO and was like, oh no, this is like kind of failing. We've got, we're really killing it on like, scheduling the content and being consistent over on social, but actually over here, our SEO has kind of failed and we missed a trick. So I turned around to the team at the time and was like, cool, can we like, I don't mind if this is a lot of work, right? To go and look through all of the SEO. We've got tons of blogs and things, right? It's going to be a piece of work. So I said to them, I'm like, I'm happy if like we have to stop posting for a month or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but like, so you're not trying to do all of this and all of that. You've got the stuff created, push it back a month and let's treat this as the priority. And I had a real back and forth with one of the guys, just being like, no, it's gonna ruin everything. Like everything we've done is ruining anything. I was like, but I don't know that. I haven't seen that. Like I've heard people say it, but I haven't seen it. And what I do know is that the SEO needs to be done. So why don't we try it? And worst case scenario, we got to start again. But surely it's not going to be, you don't stop posting for a month and you're back to scratch where you started again. You just, it might die off for a little moment and then you're going to kick back up again.
Yeah, especially if you've taken the time and invested and found the right audience,
Mm.
the right way. I think they will be there. How often have you been uh, you know, I'm gonna use Facebook as an example. You get bombarded with everything, and then suddenly a page that you really like pops up that you hadn't seen in a month. I
Yep.
mean, do you really think anything of it other than like, oh, there you are? I mean, you don't know.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you
My
don't know if you're posting or not.
100%. Tony Gordon was my partner was saying that there's an artist in the UK called Jamie T, and Tony went to school with him, and they kind of knows him and stuff, and was huge for a period of time, and then stopped posting on social. Recently, definitely a marketing company, by the way, but recently that account has started posting bits and pieces. It's selfies, it's stuff. It's now engaging again, and the likes are like it's not, and it's because people have already bought into the brand. They want to hear from the brand, and now the brand's posting, and they're happy to like it. So I really do think it's something that you hear too often. Fitness is always the one that I really think is great for. You can absolutely take a month off, just don't take like 6 months off, 3 months off, and if you do take that month off, don't necessarily go like the complete opposite way and just eat Ben and Jerry's and Wendy's every day, right? But
Yeah,
you can take a week off or a month off, and you're not going to come back and not be able to do a pull-up. If you could do 20 beforehand, you're not going to be unable. You just might find it a little tougher and maybe only do 10.
oh, that's funny. I'm going to share. So, you are a content creator. I mean, you produce amazing content. The Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt had me dying. Are you posting that to Facebook? Or will you guys be posting that to Facebook anytime?
Yeah, I think pretty soon.
Okay, because I went to look at to share it, and I'm like, "Ah, it's not there." So definitely, I loved it. It's hilarious. But you guys spend a lot of time producing that content, and it's funny that we're the regularity of posting. And I think I told my audience I'd be sharing what seems to be working real well on social right now. And there's two things that of a fairly new client that's come on, and
Mm,
they were doing this, and I was like, that works really well. On Facebook, they type a question. The simpler, the better. That way, the viewer doesn't have to think too much. But and
mhm.
sometimes it can be something controversial, sometimes not. But you ask a question and you choose the Facebook background.
Nice.
It's getting more reach than elaborate videos, than graphic content. So there you go. Ask your audience one simple question a day.
Mm,
Sometimes make it controversial, but put something that's totally related to what your industry is, and try the Facebook background and see how that goes. I was shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, this worked better than anything else, and there's no effort involved. So and then on Instagram, they were taking tweets. Now, this brand's
mm.
not even on Twitter, I don't think. They just created a graphic, a template that looked like a tweet, and they
I've
just
seen it a
changed
lot.
yep, and they just changed the wording every day. And again, something relatable, totally to their industry, and that's getting the best reach. I was shocked. So guess what I'm doing with some of my other clients now. So
But what I love, right, is there's always going to be tips and tricks as everything changes.
yeah,
You and I were in business when social media wasn't a thing, and you had to do all that other marketing stuff.
yeah.
And and there was tips and tricks there. Like I was speaking to someone just last week who is about 25 years older than me, and was talking about when he was 19 or 18 and sending out CVs to try and get jobs. He was like, I always printed mine on pink paper
Mhm.
and I always got an interview. I was like, it's genius. That's genius. In 80 something, when people were just getting stacks of paper come through, another envelope, oh, that's a CV. This one's on pink paper with black writing on it, right? And he said it just like, even if it was just a corner of it stood out underneath all the other CVs, people were like, yeah, who is this like young gentleman? So there's always going to
Oh,
be tips and tricks, right? Which, you can hack the, however you're marketing yourself. But I think the most important thing that's always been, and it's why I think your book's so important, is it's about building the community and then finding the ways to speak to them, right? So these are tips and tricks, which means that the messaging might land in front of the right people, but more importantly is the messaging and what you're trying to put out. And again, to harp back on it, too many people go, and we've done it. We've 100% done it. We've just been like, let's go for everyone. The way this show has seen success across channels is we specifically targeted maybe 2 years ago, a year ago, because it's on LinkedIn Live. I targeted a bunch of LinkedIn experts. So people were on LinkedIn coming to LinkedIn to listen about how to do better on LinkedIn. I've stopped doing that because it became boring, same conversation all the time, and that's purely me, right?
yeah.
um, and to be honest, that happens, I think, with all interview shows. If you're stuck within one vein, because before we started this business, we had a podcast called How to Write a Tune, and we sat down with different musicians. Tony and I, we sat down different musicians from buskers to super famous people, and asked just about like how do you write. The problem was after like 2 years, I was like, oh, you're one of those five ways of writing. Like, let's listen to you talk about it now. That's bored of it, right? So, we're able to expand from it. But in its genesis, the reason this show had any success was I was really targeting people who would be interested in the guests and come and see the show on the platform it's released on. It was a
Ah.
very simple metric.